Now, new figures, this is in this morning's Herald, show we're destined to hit $1 trillion in national debt in the next 3 years. It's that number, okay? It's a big one. It's a big boy. There's 12 zeros behind that one. So $1 trillion in the next 3 years. This is according to the Herald's Nation of Debt series. It starts today. You can check it out in your paper or online. A trillion, 1,000 billion. Current debt is about 872 billion. This is both public and private, so government borrowing, but also it's our mortgages, right? Business debt included. This is $163,000 per person. So what does this mean for us as a country, given that most of it's owed to foreigners? Steven Joyce is the former finance minister, also chair of NZME, though here in the former finance capacity. Good morning.
Morning, Ryan. How are you?
Good, thank you. It is a big, scary number. Should we be scared by it?
Well, to some degree, yes. There are a couple of things that we should be aware of course. One is that we've had very big inflation over the last few years. So that means that $1 trillion in a couple of years' time won't be worth what it would have been in, say, 2016. So it was about 33% inflation that we've had since 2016. So your dollar's worth a lot less, and everybody knows that. And it's the same with debt. And then it really becomes a question of how much you spend, what you're spending it on. And so if you're investing for the future, it's a bit like a house. If you're borrowing money to make your house more valuable to then sell it, then that's a good thing. If you're just borrowing money to pay the bills, that's not such a good thing. And of course, the history is we've been borrowing to pay the bills a fair bit.
Yes. The sad thing about this also is just with the current economic environment, because business debt is arguably good, right? They're borrowing to expand and buying machinery and plants, and this is productivity, etc. But that's slowing down.
Well, and all this is a reflection of the last few years. In fact, if you look at these debt figures, they tell you the story of the COVID period and since then. So you've had, at one stage there at the beginning of COVID, we had almost zero interest rates. Everybody was encouraged to borrow. People borrowed a lot for housing. They basically bid up the prices that they were selling to each other. So that's been behind the very big increase in housing debt, which has now tailed off because now nobody's selling houses to each other because it's too expensive. And similarly, as you say, the businesses are not borrowing now because their balance sheets were stretched terribly during COVID. So that everybody who's getting money is trying to pay down debt. So you look at the farmers, for example, they're paying down debt at the moment. So people are saying, well, they're doing all right. Why aren't they spending more? Well, the answer is they're repairing their balance sheets. And so are other businesses. So all your hospitality businesses, all your construction businesses, they're repairing their balance sheets at the moment, which means basically paying down debt rather than actually going into more debt.
For your average punter, does it matter that, our mortgages are obviously, most of them are owned by foreign banks? The difference between our country and a lot of others is that a lot of this debt we don't own ourselves, we owe to other countries.
Well, I don't think that matters because, in fact, if you want to grow your country, you've got to get the money from somewhere. If we only borrowed from ourselves, we'd be growing permanently very, very slowly. So, for example, if you look at power generation, we've got to invest heaps in power generation. If we rely only on the domestic companies to do that, then we'll be a long, long time before we get more electricity being generated. So I don't think that's a bad thing. It's more a question of what are you spending it on? And unfortunately, particularly in the case of government debt, that went up dramatically during the COVID period, and we didn't get a lot out of it in terms of things that we could point to that we've invested in for the future, like roading, like electricity, for example, all those sorts of things. So it all comes back to where are you borrowing the money? What are you borrowing the money for?
And this kind of feeds into the political argument we're having at the moment about, your Keynesian style economics. Should this Treasury report we had a couple of weeks ago said it should be the Reserve Bank doing the heavy lifting when things are tough, which is what's happening at the moment, although it's taking its sweet time. But, should you be, in terms of construction, just the government investing in building houses, even if they're the wrong size and in the wrong place? Do you just keep the money train going so that things tick over and you don't lose your workforce?
I don't think the government can keep the money train going at the moment because its debt also needs repair. Its balance sheet was stretched a lot during the COVID period, so its debt needs repair. So no, it's got to be predominantly private sector investment at this point. We've got to attract more money into the country with things like housing, but also infrastructure. And I think that's all coming, and we would all argue that it's a bit slow, that we need it to happen more quickly. and it's taken a long time for the machine in Wellington to gear up over the last 18 months, 2 years. So we want to see more of that, and that'll flow through into people's jobs and incomes.
Do you think the government should invest more in roading projects and infrastructure projects?
I think the government is actually investing quite a bit. The question is, are we seeing boots on the ground yet? And in a lot of cases, we're not. It's timing. So I can tell you from my knowledge of it, a lot of the people that design things and get consents and all those sorts of things are very busy, which indicates that there is work coming. It's just not.
So's Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
So what about, because the Reserve Bank doing the heavy lifting, fine. We started the cutting cycle almost exactly a year ago, and it takes a year or 18 months for that to flow through. So actually the first cuts, we've had, by Wednesday we should have had 250 basis points of cuts or something. So the ones we had a year ago when they started probably won't be feeling that until now. And the one that happens on Wednesday, we won't feel for another year.
Yeah, there's been a tendency in recent times to think that just, when the Reserve Bank changes interest rates up or down, that has an instant effect. It does a little bit on the way up, but it definitely doesn't on the way down. My view, and I've been public about this in my commentary pieces in the Herald, I think the Reserve Bank went too high and then started too late cutting. I think that's one of the reasons that we're in the situation that we're in. But we're here.
So what should they do on Wednesday then? Because we also don't want to go too far the other way and overcook things again.
Well, that's right. There's a risk that inflation, you saw food price inflation at 5% last week. There's still inflation around the place. Some of that will be seasonal, but nevertheless it was there. So I think they'll probably cut on Wednesday, but they will be cautious about it because, as you say, the worst thing would be if inflation got away again, and then you're away pushing interest rates up. Imagine that happening in the next 12 months. That would not be exciting.
No, it wouldn't. So if you were Christopher Luxon right now, and I know you wouldn't want to be because you're out of the game, but what would you do? Just hold your nerve?
Well, I think to some degree you've got to hold your nerve because this is a tough period that you're going through, right? And this is the stage of the cycle where everybody is getting very, very twitchy and grumpy. So to some extent, yes, but actually I think you'd look at doing some more things and certainly accelerating the construction story because the tariffs in particular out of the US have slowed down our recovery. It just happened that our recovery cycle was just starting to head off and be positive. And then of course we had Liberation Day, and ever since we've been very cautious and unsure about investing. So he's probably got to do a few more things to encourage the economy to really get going again. It's starting to happen, but it is slow.
Slow, yeah. Hey, appreciate your time this morning. Just before you go, we need you to judge something for us this morning. Are you up for this?
Oh, I don't know.
Who's the better dancer? Have you seen it?
Well, I think the one that was less self-conscious was definitely Chris Luxon.
Yeah, look.
I think.
Is that a good thing?
I think so, because then you look at Chippy on the other side. We can't see him at the moment. He does look like a guy who doesn't want to be there, whereas Chris Luxon looks like somebody who's quite happy being there. But Chippy does not look happy.
Is it cringe when you have to do stuff like that?
Yep.
What would you rather, watch that 3 more times or another dildo on the cheek?
Well, Ryan, I'm still going through PTSD from that latter one.
We'll leave it there. That is the former Finance Minister on the show this morning.